Seems legit.
Hello Legitimates, welcome back to my channel. It is pattern release day. So I have called this one the Changeling because you can change out the handle shapes to one of 8 different shapes that I have done for you. Today we are doing the heart. I have used a glow-in-the-dark vinyl just to be a little bit extra. But the whole bag is pretty quick and pretty simple. You can see how quick it is from the length of this video. But basically you just attach your handles, attach the sides, good to go. We can decorate the vinyl. You can use like a semi-see-through vinyl. Jelly rolls vinyl would also work really well for this bag if you didn't want it to be see-through, because the jelly roll looks the same on the front and the back, so that the inside of the bag would still look nice as well. But the handles are big enough to actually use as handles and not like one of these styles. And it's a good versatile gift bag, basically. Especially coming into Christmas, I thought this was great. So let's get into how to make it. So the pattern does come with an SVG file so that you can actually cut your handles out on your Cricut. I used the tooling leather option, which you can see is doing 3 layers of cuts, and I make sure that I put the vinyl on upside down to make sure it really cuts through it the best possible way it can. This didn't take very long, but I did still speed it up because we don't need to be here in real time. That is slightly unnecessary. But it is pretty quick, it's easy enough to do, and all the handles come with the SVG shapes. And so then after it's out, you can just peel off the excess around the outside. I always like to pull the outside first. You can see it did cut perfectly. And then to get these up, you might want to flip the mat over and then pull them off that way. Whatever works best for you. If you've used a really lightweight vinyl, please be careful when doing this. You can also see I am left with some hearts. They can be used for another project, so you could just keep those aside in like a random little container. They are cute, they glow in the dark. You could stitch them onto a bag or something else. And then that's it. Then we're ready to make. Okay, so I've got my hearts and I've kept the insides for other stuff. This stuff also glows in the dark because, you know, let's be fun. I've got my rectangle and then my 2 ends, and I used an erasable pen to draw them on so you can just wipe it off when you're done. So you need your 2 sides, your main piece, and your heart shape. And then I've just printed off both ends. I am going to eventually laminate this, but we need this for our position. So you need to find where the picture is. I've done basically half and half, and you can see the hearts on this one. So that's the one we're going to use. So first things first, we need double-sided tape. You can use glue, but you have to wait for it to dry, and I am not a patient human. I'm sure you all know that by now. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to put the tape as best in the middle as I can. Now, if you need to, you could add more than 1 piece. Depending on how thick your tape is, you might want to put 2 pieces. And you can see I am just bending it to get around the curves and just kind of squishing it down. So long as we pull away gently, this will work fine, I promise. Right, so you can see there, it's all very weird looking, but watch this. When I pull off the end gently, right, it catches a little bit. Don't rip it off as hard as possible. This is one of those few times where you don't do that because it will not work in your favor. You want to be gentle. All the tape stayed on and we're good to go. So what you want to do is you want to take your piece of paper and line up the edge of your vinyl with the edge on the pattern. So this will just give you the same line up every single time. And then I'm just going to line it up, preferably without moving it. Good job, me. Right? Like that. And then you want to try not to stick it to your tape, to your paper. This is also why I'm going to laminate it. And then we're going to grab the other side. And I only need to put the tape on the bottom half because this top half will help hold it. I mean, you can have a little bit of crossover, but for the most part, it'll be fine. If you're using glue, you use this as your guide. You place the glue on here, and then you can just place this on top. So the heart, the circle, and the square are the 3 easier shapes to do. And then the other ones are a bit more tricky in the fact that they are quite fiddly. They're not impossible to do, but they do take more time. So if you're in a bit of a hurry to make one of these, or if you're new to sewing and you're not super keen on all the crazy corners, my suggestion would be to do one of those. So the heart, the circle, and the square. The others are there because they're amazing, but they will take more sewing work. And then while I've got the tape, I can grab this. So I'm using 1/4" tape here, just if you needed to know that. Also, if you've got like one of those awesome tape dispensers that card makers use, that also might work in your favor here, and you can kind of paint layers on to give it more grip. Whatever's going. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take this half one and put this on first to help me not stick things to the paper guide, which again, I do plan on laminating. And if you plan on making a lot of these, it would be very handy. So again, we line this up like that, and then we place the tip down each side, line it up, flip it over, and then attach the other half. Now if you're using glue, please make sure it is 100% dry, because you can otherwise get glue in your machine, and if you don't get it out, it'll at minimum collect dust, but otherwise it also might like mess with timing and stick to the wrong things. We just don't want that. Okay, so then because I cut these on the Cricut, these should line up pretty much bang on perfect. Now we will be cutting this part out, but you don't do it yet. We do the sewing first and then the cutting, because it just gives a little more stability to trying to get this done. So I'm using a nice pale pink to be less intrusive. You can start wherever. I'm going to start at the point, and I'm going to do the outside shape first. You can do the inner one if you want. So I'm going to line it up right in that tip, and I'm going to stitch and back stitch to lock it in. You can also pull it through, tie it off. I'm not the boss of you. Whatever floats your boat. Right, so we're going to go nice and slowly. We can clip off the tail. I'm using a 3 stitch length for this. And then as we start getting to this curve, you might need to lift up the presser foot to kind of adjust the circle. Because we really do want it to kind of stay together as best it can. And then down the end, straights are always easier. Back stitch, trim it off. So now that the outside is joined, and that was actually a fairly straight stitching. I've never done this one before. You'll notice this is part of the front cover. And I want to go this way this time. I like to have the raw edge on the inner section. Different people like to do it different ways. You can also not think about it if you don't need to. It's just what I like. Right, so again, the straight part was fairly simple, but now we're getting into the tighter curve. And then pivot, and then other way. This actually might be better on the green machine. I don't know. By having that clear there, it does make it more stable to sew the bottom half. It has slipped a little bit. I'll show you the underneath side. The underneath is probably not going to be perfect unless you glued every millimeter of it. So that's the back. My stitching on the back does not look brilliant, but from the front, it looks amazing. So now that we've cut it, now that we've sewn both of them, we can cut out this part inside. So all the shapes, you want to cut out whatever's inside it so that you can get your hands in the handle nice and easily. Like that. So we cut that out, that bit's rubbish, and so now you can use it as a full handle. It's fantastic. Now, with right sides up, you then want to do the other side. So we want to make sure that the back is going to be inside so it's less noticeable, because like I said, you could be the best sewer and it still won't look perfect on the back. So we want them both best sides out, I guess you could call that. And again, this bit stays put better than this curve here. Pivot up and around. So again, glue might be your best friend for this. I am too impatient to wait for glue to dry. It'll take like an hour. Unless you were production sewing a whole bunch of these, in which case you could glue them all and then come back and then sew them all. Oh, these are blunt, which is not helping my cause at all. Nothing I can do about that. But you do definitely want to make sure that you trim all the tails, because otherwise they'll look completely out of place. So now we're going to do the inner part, which again, I'm just going to roll this up because it's easier to maneuver when it's not as long. Don't feel bad about bending it either. It'll survive just fine, I promise. So again, where the vinyl, the clear vinyl is the easy part because it's kind of more stable. You could ignore the noise, it's the cat. For those that have not watched the live recently, we now have a cat, a kitten, and it's decided that its favorite place in the house is my sewing area. Alright, move that out of the way. Straight bit, I mean it's straight-ish. Get back to the end, back stitch, lift it up, trim it off. So again, the front looks amazing. I'm going to show you the front versus the back. So that's the front, looks awesome. Back just never looks as good. Look at it, looks dodgy there, but on the front looks amazing. What do you do? The answer is nothing. So we want the front face down, and then we want to find the center on both sides. And I'm just going to mark it with a clip. You could also mark it with something erasable if you wanted to. All right, find the center with a clip. So this is how the bag's going to sit. And then we're going to take our side pieces and we're going to fold them in half, finding on the curve edge the center. All right, and then we're going to just place the centers together like that. Now this is sticky because it's clear vinyl. It actually gets quite sticky, which works in our favor because it's going to hold everything together. I'm going to have the clips face this gusset piece because it will be easier to sew. Oh, and I broke another clip. So we're going to put 3 at the bottom, and then I'm going to come up to the top and line the top edge up. Anything that includes curves can easily be mismanaged so that it looks like it doesn't fit. So if we work from the top edge, and again, it's sticky, so it should mostly stick to itself. I did not mean to throw that on the floor, but it did distract the cat from playing with my pants, so that did work out in my favor. Alright, so we're just trying to line it all up, add the clips, and then this curve should fit in there beautifully. See? I don't know if you can see because it's clear. So then we're going to do the same to this edge. So we're going to bring it up, join it. Now this will be the outer edge. You can, of course, if you want to, cover this with a binding. If you don't like this raw edge just stitching look, You could take some of this, a strip of this, and then stitch it on top like a binding. I wouldn't do a full 1 inch. I'd probably cut maybe a 3/4 inch piece, like wide, and then stitch that on. Oh, and I've just put all of those clips on the wrong way because we want them to face the gusset. It will make it easy to pull them off while we're sewing. It's probably not the end of the world if you don't do that. But it will make it, the way I sew, it's easy to pull the clips off if they're facing the correct way. So that's what I want to do. Another clip. The plastic is sticking to itself, so it will take you like a second to get it organized, but lots of clips. And then we're just going to come in here, and I'm going to do 1/8 of an inch from the edge. Stitch, back stitch. And then we're just going to slowly stitch down. Now, if you're not using a walking foot, you will absolutely want Teflon underneath your presser foot. So you can buy Teflon tape, or you'll want to use a Teflon foot. If you don't have those options, I have seen where people either use tissue paper or powder. I don't love the idea of putting powder in my machine, but you know your machine better than me, so it might work for you. Then we just want to get around that curve, which might seem tricky, but all I'm really doing is pushing it down flat and then just sewing the curve as normal. There's no big trick to that. And then when we get to the end, we're going to backstitch. Right, that's it. Trim off the tail at the other end, because we all know there will be one. And if you don't trim your tails, they are absolutely noticeable on something like this. If you don't want to trim them, you can use a thread zapper and melt them off. I mean, whatever. But we're halfway there. So this whole bag is actually not that big, but still super adorable. So, second side, again, I'm going to fold this side in half to find the center. You can just make like a little crease if you need to, or you could draw on it with like an erasable pen. And then we're going to line up the center with the center, making the clips face the gusset piece, which is that little piece I just put in. And we want to make sure this is actually on the edge. If you line them up and they're not directly on the edge, you can come back later with some scissors and trim it down. So don't stress too much. Don't make it a stressful thing because it's sticking and it's not perfectly level. Because anywhere it's not perfectly level, like here, it shifted a little bit. You can just come along with scissors and trim it off. Like, it's fine. Nobody's going to know the difference. That was my fault. I knew that it was going to do that and I ignored it. Don't stress about it too much. So, 3 at the bottom. Come join up the edge here, like that. Clips facing the gusset piece. Work our way down. I'm putting my finger on top so that they both butt up against it, because even though it's sticky, it can still move when sewing. But if it butts up against my finger, at least it'll be level when I add a clip. Makes life much easier. You could also use a tinted clear stuff. You could also use jelly vinyl. That'd be cool too. And if you watch the other video, you can add like HTV or DTF stickers or something to it. Where's my other clip gone? I don't know. Alright, line up this edge like so. And again, face the gusset. And then I'm going to butt it up against my finger so it's in line and together. And that is probably the trickiest bit. Because it sticks to itself, it's quite easy for it to not be perfectly level. But again, if it's not, it's fine. You trim it down at the end. It's really just not a big deal. It'll just change the size of the bag a little bit. Yep. Again, the noise is the cat. Alright, so gusset side up, squish the bag down, Don't be afraid to squish your bag. I promise it'll survive. Stitch, back stitch. 1/8 of an inch. Along we go. Moving it around. Get to the end, back stitch, lift, pull, trim, and the other end. And that's it. It is done. You just kind of want to straighten it up like that. Beautiful. So you can fit enough in there to be a perfect like gift hamper. You could also, like if somebody's moving into a new house, this would be cool to fill with like toiletries and stuff. I don't know, whatever you want. I just thought that was really fun. So that's the heart one. The heart is one of the easier ones, but like I said, there are more complex ones. It'll just take a little bit longer to sew all of the curves, and it might be easier on the green machine. I haven't tried it, so I might do my second video on the green machine just to show you. I've also got some fluff there, so we're just going to use the lighter to get rid of that, because that's not what we need. All right, there you go, guys. I hope that was informative enough. There are 8 different shapes in the pattern. It is listed below in the description, and it will also be a part of the last swapsy for the year. So I'm going to have in my Facebook group a sign up page where you can sign up for the swapsy. So the idea is that you make one of these, and then we're going to fill it full of handmade things. Now, when I say fill it, I mean like you could put a boxy pouch, which will take up most of the space, and then like maybe a little coin pouch or something. We're not going to go crazy, and we're not going to go and buy things. We're going to try and use what's in our house and have handmade gifts in a handmade gift bag. All right, guys, until the next video, I will see you then. Bye-bye.